Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am so delighted to introduce you to my guest today, Chris Badgett. A natural and authentic teacher, Chris has used that inclination in every business he's started or mentored. Through video and a successful podcast, Chris shares his extensive knowledge, not just of online learning systems, but of business models and more. Chris is the CEO of Lifter LMS, a tool that encompasses the needs of the modern membership course creator. This tool allows you to create an integrated membership site. When he's not building online courses or his LMS software company, you can find him working in his cabin, spending time in nature, or performing magic tricks for his kids. Be sure to say hi to him on Twitter at Chris Badgett or check out lifterlms.com. Hey, welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Tammy. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. You have quite a story to tell. I'm really excited to have a chance for our listeners to hear about it because there isn't anything you really haven't done from where I sit. And the one thing that really struck me, I think, when we spoke in our pre-interview was you said something along the lines of, I could live on nothing, practically. And I think there's very few of us who would say that and mean it the same way you do. So that said, I want to leave people a little curious and hungry for more. But I'd love for you to share a little bit about your earlier days, your background, and the path that you took to get to where you are now, because I think that yours is a path that started with maybe not lots of great intentions, let's say from the teenage years, right? But that really from after high school onward, you've really followed lots of paths with great intentions and really fulfilled a lot of intentions. So I'd love for you to share that.
Yes. Well, so where I am now is I live on a little organic farm. I homeschool my kids. I run a software company from a cabin in the backyard I built myself, and I've got customers all over the world. The town I live in is only about 5,000 people. I spend a lot of time in nature. I do a lot of traveling. But to go back to the beginning of the story and how I got to where I am here, I grew up in a college town in North Carolina. My parents were not entrepreneurs, more middle class, hardworking family, and I found myself as a young man very bored and very just looking to not be where I was. I had to be somewhere different. I was kind of rebellious. I wasn't really an upstanding member of society, and in those early teenage days. I just like to hang out with my friends. We like to party. And in the early days, really that sliver that kind of got inside my life was a nature connection thing. I had a friend who started going on hiking trips with and rock climbing and doing things like that. And I started to feel a little bit of a release and just more of a connection to who I was and what I wanted to do. So I made it out of high school alive. And then in college, I didn't get into my first choice, my second choice, my third choice, but I did get into my fourth choice. And the way I approached college is I'm just going to study whatever I'm interested in. So I got into anthropology, psychology, sociology, alternative technology, philosophy, and religion. I put together a major that kind of combined all that under a banner of sustainable development. And all of a sudden, I started getting good grades. I started being focused. I actually did the work. I cared about the classes. I think I had perfect attendance, and I left school on the chancellor's list. But I remember asking my senior thesis anthropology instructor, how does a cultural anthropologist with a focus in sustainable development get a job. And he really had nothing for me. He held up his hands. So I left and I just hit the road and lived in the back of my car and would meet up with friends. We'd go rock climbing, climb big mountains. And I just pursued what I love to do while I figured it out. And I did a lot of that. I got into sled dogs in Colorado a little bit just because I was trying to get residency. I had it in my mind that I wanted to become an ethnographic filmmaker, like a cross-cultural documentary filmmaker. And when I did not get into those programs, I said, screw it, I'm going to Alaska, where I ended up for a decade. And up there, I ran sled dogs. I helped somebody train for the Iditarod. I managed his business in the summer, which was a helicopter-supported dog sled tour business that you could only get to by helicopter. There were several hundred sled dogs up there. I had 30 people I was responsible for. I started out as a guide, but I worked my way up and became a manager there. Through all that, I learned leadership and management, and I handled a lot of risky, high-stress situations that gave me a lot of insight and foundation. I could later build, technology company business off of those skills. They're all still relevant. I started messing around with WordPress, started writing about leadership, which is important to me. And I started a technology company where I would build websites for clients on the side after I had my first daughter in Alaska.
So you were starting to, what's the term I say the kids are saying these days? You started adulting.
I don't think I've ever started adulting, but I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, but you started a family while you were still in Alaska. So
I did. Yeah.
Had the interest in the sled dog business or the activity of sled dogging. I don't know. How do you call it sled dogging?
Mushing, dog mushing.
Mushing. How much I know about that. But you took that interest from Colorado to, it sounds like there was a program, some kind of filmmaking program you would hope to get into back in Colorado?
I was just living in the back of my car in Leadville, Colorado. I randomly ran into somebody on the street that I had met in Asia and Nepal when I did a study abroad in the Himalaya in Kathmandu when I was in undergrad. And I was just going to live in the woods above Boulder, Colorado, which is what I was doing, a small area called Nederland, for a year, get residency so I could go to school in Boulder. But I ran into that friend on the street. She said, why don't you come live with us up in Leadville? We'll get you a job up there. You'll find something. And I randomly found a guy who had just bought a sled dog business, didn't know what he was doing. And he was like, you're hired.
So you kind of fell into that.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. So that was not part of the intentional thing. You fell into the mushing business through the friend and the introduction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much an outdoor person. I mean, I could have just as easily ended up being a snowmobile guide or a rock climbing guide or something like that.
Right. Got it. Yeah. I see. It's helpful to hear sort of what were some of the sort of pivot points along the way, whether or not they were part of your intention or not. It's just interesting to hear. So then from there you moved to Alaska and stuck with the mushing theme.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way met your wife.
Yeah, we met on a glacier up in Alaska. She worked where I worked.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you met at work. And then you had your first child up there too.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
and you learned leadership and management and all these things, and that resonated with you in some ways, it sounds like.
It did, especially in the wilderness context, which is, there's always a lot of high consequences if things don't go well. And there's always this really direct feedback loop if things go well or they don't go well.
And you like that?
I liked it. I think I liked having, when I'm in a situation, I always see things that can improve or optimize, or I see talent trapped inside people. I would say I have a pretty big empathy muscle. So when I'm around other people, I can often sense their fears, their frustrations, their mental models. And when you see that kind of stuff, it's a helpful tool for like management and building a team and getting a team to gel. And I just realized that I had a strength for that
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, as long as the work we were doing is something I enjoyed, I started to feel myself come alive in that kind of
Mm,
situation.
nice. It's a nice blend too of being outdoors, which was important to you, interacting with people in ways where you could help them discover something in themselves and make something happen, and see the results.
Yeah, and towards the end of that, I loved the end customer that came up there too, because this is not like the dentist where somebody's got to sit in the chair. Like people are coming up here for a once in a lifetime experience, and just to help facilitate that is fun. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I realized what I loved most about that from a working world was actually developing other managers and leaders. That was
Huh.
my favorite thing to do.
And you were there for many, many years, so you had a chance to probably develop quite a few people while you were there.
Yeah, yeah, quite a few.
So what made you decide, obviously we know you're in Maine now, so, and I know you've lived in a few other places since then. What made you decide to leave Alaska?
A lot of it was just practicality and risk mitigation. Like helicopter flying in helicopters is fun. I also know pilots though that are no longer around, and living out on a glacier, you see like when people come off Mount Everest, they're really sunburned and stuff.
Yep.
There's like skin issues you got to be careful of. There's there's like crevasses that you can fall into,
Yep.
and uh but mostly those things were important and weighing on me a little bit just from like a actuaries table point of view. But
Oh,
also
okay.
it's kind of like the military. When you work in a remote environment, you're kind of deployed. And it was
Yes.
really important to me to be a father who was really attached to his kids, especially when they were super young.
Yeah.
It could work, and I'm not saying that it's bad if people do things that a different way, but I just consciously wanted to really be around for my kids growing up.
Right. So that was a choice.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you had to come down off the glacier, but you
yeah.
didn't have to leave Alaska to do that.
I didn't have to, but it just kind of made sense. My wife is from Maine. You need a support
Oh, okay.
network with your kids.
Mhm.
We spent some time in Montana too,
Mhm.
but like on the side, I had developed this skill of building websites, and this is something just way late in my time in Alaska that I just kind of became obsessed with this idea of I want to run a business that I can operate from anywhere, which I've done.
Ah,
I've run this from started this business in Montana. We've ran the business out of an RV and traveled around the country and visited a lot of national parks and stuff. And now I'm in Maine, but a couple weeks ago I was in Arizona. It doesn't matter. Like it
right.
can keep going, and I became obsessed with that idea when I was leaving Alaska because I got to experience freedom, the freedom to work. I felt like I had won the lottery to work outdoors, basically get paid to go camping for a living, give people a great experience. And I'm kind of sugarcoating it. There's some hard aspects to it, but
Oh, sure, sure.
I wasn't. It was like a never settle situation. From that moment, I left my childhood and went to college and was like, I'm going to study what I want to study.
Yeah.
I just kind of got used to kind of doing my own thing and figuring it out.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, I remember when you and I talked initially and you talked about, those earlier high school, teenage years where you were bored. And I remember you using the word, you called yourself a delinquent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you think about it, clearly you're not a delinquent anymore. So, or at least I don't think you are. So the point being though that you got to move on with your life and experience life in a far more engaging way, in a way where you've discovered all kinds of parts and sides to yourself. You've helped to develop other people, including both professionally and your own family. And life is good, and you're not taking it for granted is what I'm hearing. And yet what you're doing isn't necessarily for everyone. And yet what I think you're demonstrating though is that you you know yourself, you know what you like, you know how you want to be living your life, and you're making it workable with also understanding what the needs are of the people around you who you've made a commitment to.
Yeah,
Does that capture it?
that definitely captures it. And I'd say the other point is that like whenever I've leaned into something I really wanted, I wasn't afraid to start at the bottom or have nothing.
Yeah. Yes.
And that gave me, once you do that and you develop the muscles for that and the comfort with that, a whole world of options open up.
Right. That's a great point. Starting, not being afraid to start at the bottom.
Or
You're
start
also,
over.
you're not
Yeah.
right. And I think that's what trips a lot of people up when they're trying to start something new, or they think that they're starting all over, when in fact, even when you started all over, so to speak, you weren't really starting all over, because you were in Alaska, supervising people, helping people have enjoyable experiences on the glacier, mushing, and you were already in the process of learning how to build websites and gaining technical skills. Um, you were doing all of that, and all of that experience led you to where you are now, where you're still doing customer relations, and you get to take with you whatever you've learned along the way, even if it might look like you're doing something different today. And I think that a lot of people who stop themselves from stepping into something that could be far more satisfying and rewarding, they hold themselves back from that because they say, "Oh, I'm too old," or "I don't want to have to start all over." When in fact, starting all over doesn't look like what starting looked like when they first started. If you look at what starting looked like when you actually did start, it's a very different starting. Like if you said to me, I'm going to close down this business and I'm going to start a whole new business now, you wouldn't be starting from where you started before, because you have so many more tools in your toolkit. You have so many more experiences behind you. You take that all with you.
Yeah, people are people, business is business. You are you. Like these things, you're correct. You do carry over. I think the things where you start over sometimes are like income,
Yes.
or like if you move, you got to rebuild up your social network, and these are big things. But if you've learned how to do that and you're okay with like some minimalism, like, oh, what if I go to a restaurant or a bar and I know nobody? Or what if I need to get by on $1,000 a month or less or a little
Yeah.
more or whatever? Can I do
Yeah.
that? Those, if you get confidence with that kind of thing, that
Right.
can serve you in those transitions.
Right. And we know you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from the camping thing to living in the back of the car to
Right.
like moving to a new state or going to another country where you know nobody, these
Right.
skills, I would say, are very valuable no matter what you do, just to give you that perspective
Yeah.
in life and just a base kind of comfort with yourself.
Right. I think that's an excellent point. It really does start with yourself, because if you're not having that comfort level with yourself, it's very hard to step into those unknowns or those new situations and be able to start to engage in those. Um, what are some other things that you would tell someone if they were trying to pivot or make some kind of change or transition? What would be some key pieces of advice you might give someone?
Besides the minimalism and the do what you want, part of doing what you want is like going back in time to where
Yeah.
you were a child and where perhaps you might have lost the thread of what
Mhm.
used to light you up. I
Mm.
think sometimes when we say that we don't know what we want or we're not sure what will make it happy, it's because we've lost our way a little
Yeah.
bit or
Yeah.
lost our connection to what drives us,
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to go back to figure out where you lost the thread, and
Right.
how whatever that means for you. That can be a lot of different practices of meditation or just thinking back or doing some journaling or whatever. There's lots of
Mhm.
ways to try to get back there.
Yeah, some different methods for connecting with that thread. That's an excellent point. So so here you are in Maine. How long have you been in Maine now?
Um, about 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
And Lifter LMS, how long has that been an entity?
5.
So you started that in Montana, you said.
I did, yeah.
And how did that come about from glaciers and mushing in Alaska? There is a part of me that's saying, okay, how did that thread? Now I'm like,
Yeah.
where's that thread going? Because it does seem like the job that you can take anywhere. Now, clearly, you can't take mushing everywhere
No.
and
Yeah.
take the outdoors everywhere, but there's a big difference between, let's say, being in Maine and being in Alaska.
Yeah.
So the job you have now is a little more of an indoor job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're running a farm too, so that
Yeah.
does take you outdoors. But what made you want to move in this direction with online learning platforms and those kinds of things? What brought that about?
I think we all have secret lives. And
Ooh,
like
I'm curious.
so one of my secret lives, like when I'm in Alaska, I'm often hanging out with people who are big in the outdoors and they're hunters and family people, all these things. But I also had this like, academic, intellectual kind of social science thing spinning that, those were the types of books I read and, I wanted to change the world in some way and all that kind of stuff. But also I really got into leadership and management and I like growing things and making them bigger and you just developing people and systems and businesses and things like that. When I was into leadership and I started developing my own kind of signature style of management and leadership and I wanted to express myself about it and share that with other people. So I went to blogging. I went to YouTube. I found some videos about how to blog, and then it was like how to build a WordPress website. And I'm a self-directed learner, so I just
Ah,
started stringing it together, and I built my first website.
mm,
And, and I started blogging about outdoor leadership as a type of leadership.
mhm.
And to fast forward the story, some other people started asking me to build websites for them and I started doing that. Then I started charging for that, $300 website here, $500 website here. And then I started people asking me to do things I didn't know how to do. I built a team and a bigger team and up to like 17 people. And then we have now we're doing huge websites, $30,000, $80,000,
I
$100,000
was
like
gonna
web.
say, when you said $300 website, 5 I'm thinking, folks, don't think he's still doing $300 websites.
Yeah. And it went up and up
Phone
and
will be
up.
ringing off the hook.
Yeah. And then through all that, we ended up specializing in this type of niche where people would have like an expertise and they wanted to build like online training programs and, businesses around their expertise. And we just developed a lot of specialty in that between like 2010 and, 2004. And ultimately, our clients, some of our best clients, we bootstrapped the money the extra money we had off of those projects funded the development of the software, which they were the first users in. So it kind of came through writing. It went from expressing through writing
Mm.
to the technology to helping other people express. That's really the thread.
Yeah, I see that. And also, I think the other piece of that is the relationships that you've developed over time, and that as you did certain projects for people, they could see the vision that you had and they wanted you to continue helping them grow their visions too, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's kind of like it goes back to that guiding thing. If you take somebody on a guided trip and like things
Yeah.
go horribly wrong, you're not going to be back in business. But if it keeps getting better and better and better, they tend to become really loyal, stay with you and tell their
Yeah.
friends.
Well, I could imagine too, even if something does go horribly wrong and they see even how you troubleshoot it or you solve it or you turn it around, that
Yeah,
can also build a relationship that's stronger too. Like they want you there when things go wrong.
totally.
Yeah. So I could see it going both ways in that way. That's exciting.
Yeah. I love what I do. I feel, again, just like in Alaska, I have to pinch myself. Like, how do I get to do this? I feel like I won the lottery again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you have a pretty sizable team now working with you.
Yeah. We actually reduced our size when we got out of client services. So we went down from 17. Now we're at 10. You just need less people to run a product business than a service business.
I see.
Yeah. We've got people all over the US and the world.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I love it. And we have customers in something like 160 different countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's mind blowing.
160 countries.
Yeah.
So you must have some capacity for handling things in different languages and
A little bit. Part of that is the beauty of, I do have people. I mean, I'm just thinking about my team. I've got somebody in India. I've got somebody in Italy.
uh-huh.
I've had Spanish speakers before, but
Yeah.
the bigger issue is that we kind of piggyback on WordPress, which powers 30% of the internet, which already has a lot of international translation going on in ways people contribute to the software. And part of our business model is we give a lot away for free. So we have a free core plugin that's very valuable.
Ah,
And because we play by the rules, if you will, of how open source software works in the WordPress ecosystem in that way,
yeah.
we give away a ton for free, and we get a lot of distribution, internationalization from that. And then we have a few things that we sell that create a viable business for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So I also think it's interesting as a parent when we model for our children what it's like to enjoy our work and for them to see how we might make certain changes or transitions along the way, for them to witness that. I know that many of us, the only context for work that we have growing up is whatever our parents did. And so I can only imagine, especially with your kids being homeschooled, they're witnessing up front, what you're doing, what your wife is doing day to day. Maybe even they're participating in some way, although they're probably kind of young. But I can imagine, that they're getting a taste. They can tell that you love what you do.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
think modeling is a big part of parenting, whether you're intending to or not.
yes.
Um, and yeah, our kids are, they're out in the garden, they're helping plant stuff. I don't have it right here. I'd show it to you. We did a logo redesign for Lifter LMS, and they did some logo versions themselves on their.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, they see how you interact with it. I'm not. You may know better than me the statistics, but it's something like 10 to 20% of people are really happy with their work, or something like that.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty
kids
low, actually.
kids can tell, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
as they grow up, that's going to shape their worldview of like, what is this thing we call work?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How do we define it? What place does it hold in our lives in general? The way that you've been holding it in your life, you're showing them how it's integrated. It's not this thing that you leave at the door every night. It's here, and sometimes we do it and sometimes we do other things. And when we do it, we enjoy it. It's not always a pretty picture, but it's still something that feels satisfying.
Yeah.
I would like to see most kids get a picture of work being that way. I'm not sure if they are, but I'm pretty sure they're not, because the statistics I think are pretty high around people who see work as this thing that they just have to do and don't enjoy, which is why we're here talking.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what's next for you? Because I get the feeling you're always thinking, you're always evolving, you're always moving on in some ways, even though it sounds like you've changed some of your business model from services to more product based. But what are you envisioning? What would we be talking about a year from now, let's say?
Well, learning's kind of my thing. That's the unifying thread.
Yeah.
And that's why we kind of raise our kids the way we raise them, and why I'm passionate about being in a business that allows their education entrepreneurs to develop learning programs. So training sled dogs on how to work together, training people on how to work with people and sled dog. It's all learning. This is what
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about. So really, And I'm really happy with where I'm at in the technology space.
Yeah.
So I don't really see much change afoot in terms of just helping people build these kind of training programs and empowering other entrepreneurs to lead their tribes
Mm-hmm.
and deliver value out into the world and to
Yeah.
change the world. They want to change it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And I think the technology is going to keep changing.
Yes.
And I'm going to continually, I think I've gotten a lot better with it over the years, which it is hard as an entrepreneur for that work-life balance thing.
Yes.
To just, do family stuff, do work stuff, and have them coexist. And I can continually improve in that department, but
Yeah.
I found my sweet spot, and I'm going to still continue to get out there and go hiking and go swimming and
Yes.
take my kids on long outdoor adventures. So
Yeah.
it's just more of the same.
Yeah. And if people would like to learn more about what you are up to, I know at the beginning, we mentioned your website and your Twitter feed. Is there anything else coming up that they should know about?
I have a podcast for course creators called LMS Cast. We have over a couple hundred episodes where I talk to people on various issues that if you do want to get into this business of helping people through training programs, where we get into all the nitty gritty of that. So
Okay.
you can find me over there at LMS Cast.
Okay, great. Well, we will have all of that in the show notes. And I want to thank you for sharing your story. It's fascinating. And I know all we have to do is open our eyes and we will find you because you're everywhere.
Thanks, Tammy. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And for you that's out there listening, I hope this has inspired you in some way. And if there's anything I can do to help you, just reach out and let me know.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Chris Badgett. It was so interesting to speak with him and learn about his personal and professional transitions. What is your key takeaway from our conversation? Is there something you'll put into action this week that you'll benefit from for years to come? Share what resonated with you in the show notes at workfromtheinsideout.com. Look for episode 040. That's also where you'll find all the links and resources from today's podcast. Are you thinking about what's next for you? Ready to consider your options or begin a process of exploration to get the clarity, energy, and plans you need to move forward? I am piloting a small group for 4 to 6 professional women who are curious, willing, and ready to engage in a 3-month program that offers the information, inspiration, and support you need to get where you are going next. Cohorts are beginning in mid-September 2019. By the completion of the group, you will be refreshed and ready to take on new endeavors. Are you interested? Do you have questions? Contact me through my website or via email, and we will schedule a conversation to explore the possibilities. If you enjoyed this episode with Chris, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. Are you enjoying the podcast? I'd love to read your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find my page at tammygulerloeb.com/Apple. Thanks for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. And who knows? Maybe you'll be my next interview on this podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.